So I'm going to invite our panelists to introduce themselves, and I'm just going to kind of go down the line here. I know we were hoping to have Jabari Miles join us this evening. I know he had a hang up that he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to make it, and I don't think he's on the call yet. So we might be missing Jabari, but I'm going to go ahead down the line here and have each of these fine folks introduce themselves. So if you wouldn't mind telling us your name and kind of a very 2-second backstory on where you're from, what you studied or where you worked previously, and what you're doing now, that would be great. So Kaitlin, I'm going to go ahead and call on you first.
Thanks, Val. Hi, everyone. My name is Kaitlin Crenshaw. I am originally from Durham, North Carolina. My undergraduate was at NC State. I graduated back in 2016 studying engineering, but from there went into technology consulting. I spent about 3 years in DC and a year out in Denver doing consulting mainly for the federal government. Now I'm here at the Institute. I'm back in Durham, not far from the Institute, taking classes virtually, and I'm loving it.
Awesome. Thank you, Kaitlin. All right, Kevin, you're next.
Hey, I'm Kevin Lybrand. I graduated last year from the Institute. Before that, originally from Spartanburg, South Carolina, went to Clemson University for undergraduate, got a master's there as well, both in biomedical engineering. From there, I spent about 5 years working in medical device quality assurance, working as a quality engineer. Came to the program last year, finished it up virtually in the spring, went through the interview process mostly remotely, and I'm working for a company called SE2S now, working on a contract down at Fort Bragg.
Awesome, thank you. All right, Abhinav, you are next.
Hey everyone, my name is Abhinav Pandey. I'm originally from Nepal, and I'm currently a data scientist at Elevate Credit. And I focus on cloud-based machine learning. And a little bit of background, Elevate is a financial technology company that focuses on consumer lending. And I've been at Elevate for about 1.5 years now, and I graduated from the Institute in 2019.
And before that?
Oh, before that, I was finishing up my undergrad at Earlham College, which is in Indiana. And I mean, my background was, I majored in economics, but I did have a little bit of computer science in there too.
Awesome, thank you. And then finally, last but not least, we have Sarah Stevens.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Stevens. I recently graduated from UNC Chapel Hill in May of 2020. I studied economics and political science, so I came into this program straight out of undergrad. So I'm a current student at the Institute, and I'm loving it, just like Kaitlin.
Awesome. All right, thank you all. So we're going to open up the floor to questions, and if you would like, you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask it out loud, or you can enter your question in the chat, whichever you would prefer. Don't be shy. What questions do you have for the panel? And if you don't have any right away, I'm going to go ahead and throw one out there just to get things started. So if any of you, all of you would mind sharing, what's something, maybe like one highlight for you? And Kaitlin and Sarah, a highlight so far during the program. Kevin and Abhinav, one highlight in general about your MSA experience that you would want to share.
I can go ahead and kick us off. I'd have to say it's really tough to pinpoint just one moment, but one of the biggest highlights of being in the program has absolutely been the people. And it's especially been highlighted considering the current global situation. All of my classmates have made a remote learning situation fun, interactive, and I honestly don't feel like I'm missing out on much by not being at the Institute every day. And we formed a great support system for each other. And it's been a really wonderful experience meeting everybody and working with everybody.
Great.
Yeah, I'd echo that as well. I thought that it was really, really good to be able to work with so many people that were as as motivated and driven towards the same types of things that I was. And then also the professional development at the Institute. I definitely think that set it apart and really helped me on the path to becoming a professional data scientist. So.
For me, I think the biggest highlight was definitely the practicum project. It was definitely a great opportunity to be able to actually work with data scientists in the field and kind of get a sense of what the day-to-day applications of data science and analytics actually are. And I think that helped me a lot in terms of both, just kind of understanding what the profession is and what it demands, as well as later on during the job search and, that whole phase of the Institute. I think it was very helpful in terms of having that experience.
Yeah, for me, I'd also say that people are the best part about this program. I really love my practicum team, but to sort of bring up a different point, a lot of students interact outside of classes and engage in learning from each other in other ways. So another student started a book club, and so we would have weekly sort of book club meetings talking about a data science related book. We started with Technically Wrong, talking a bit about the ethics in data science. And so even though I don't always have time to go to the meetings, when I do, it is an incredible highlight to sort of hear from everybody's different perspectives on the ethics in data science.
Excellent. All right, folks. Who has a question? Oh, actually,
I have a question.
Oh,
no.
Sorry not to interrupt you, but one question.
No worries.
Jabari has just joined us. So as soon as his audio connects, there he is.
Hey, Valerie, sorry about that.
No worries, Jabari. You had perfect timing. We were just getting going with Q&A. Would you mind just introducing yourself briefly and letting folks know what you do and what you did prior to coming into the MSA program?
Absolutely, yeah. So my name is Jabari Miles. I came into the MSA program straight out of undergrad. I did information systems. Excuse me there. I did information systems and economics at App State, and then I went straight to the IAA. And then afterwards, I worked at SAS as a consultant for 2 years, doing various types of projects, working in the pharmaceutical space, as well as working with NCDOT. Since SAS, I've been at Red Hat, where I've been working in financial analytics.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right, someone had a question, so go right ahead.
Yeah. Hey, this is Andrew Wolschlag. I can't change my name from team admin. I don't know why. But I had a question kind of for all of you guys. Feel free to, I guess, chirp in. But how did you, it sounds like some of you guys had passions coming into this program. But maybe for those who are in it, like, how did you find kind of your niche or passion through data science? Like, is it mostly through coursework that you're doing, interactions with faculty, or something like interaction with like your practicum or clients that you're working for?
I mean, I can get us started with that. I think for me personally, the biggest contributor to why I wanted to be in this field probably came from my coursework. In undergrad, I was focused on economics, but I thought it was really cool how we start out with mainly like theories and concepts like that, but as we progressed into econometrics and a little bit more of the statistical side of economics, I thought it was really cool how you're able to tell stories about just things that are happening by using statistical models. And that really sparked my interest in this entire field. And I think that's what helped me get started.
For me, in terms of finding like my niche, I guess, is a big part of it is just trying a lot of different things, particularly jobs. Going from SAS, even at SAS, I worked in 2 different jobs there. One on the health side, and then going over to a wide variety of different jobs, or different fields in terms of and it's still in analytics, but just applying it to different areas. So I think a lot of people, especially me coming out of undergrad, I felt that the first job I needed to have was where I needed to be for the next 5-10 years. But it really was just the first stepping stone to where ultimately I wanted my career to go.
As someone who's currently in the program, one of the most helpful things has truly been the fact that the Institute brings in all these different companies to come and speak to us about how they're practicing analytics and data science. And this is across industries. So we've had a financial company come in just this week. We've had pharmaceutical companies, insurance companies, tech companies, banks, and you get to learn about how each company is implementing data science. And I mean, we all know that data science touches everything these days. And so it was really nice to get really specific examples of how it's being utilized in so many different ways. And then to add on to that, in practice, we are encouraged to take on what are called side projects. So these are personal pet projects that allow us to go out, find our own data, do our own analysis on topics that interest us. And the faculty are really supportive of this and are always available to answer our questions as we struggle through whatever data we may have decided to work with. So it's great having that support system as well to pursue our interests.
Just to add on to that, also as a current student, I wouldn't say I've exactly narrowed down what my passions are. There's so much to sift through, but what so much. But what has been helping me, I think, is talking to alumni. The alumni network is extensive, and pretty much everyone that I have reached out to or that I've met in one of these employer sessions has been more than willing to share their experience and talk about what their day-to-day life is like. And so I've used that as a way to gauge what industries or types of analytics might be a good fit for me.
Yeah, I'd say that the Institute really does provide an opportunity to expose you to so many different types of applications for analytics. And it gives you the opportunity to practice that with the homework assignments, with the practicum project. So I think just having that broad base really exposed me to a lot of different topics I didn't really know anything about coming in, and helped me, figure out what areas of data science I wanted to pursue and which ones I wanted to stay away from. So
cool. Thanks for sharing, everyone. And Jabari, I work at Red Hat as well, so we can maybe touch base offline at some point.
Yeah, connections. I love it. All right. Tyler asked in the chat, what is the most interesting topic, assignment, or coursework that you've done?
I can go ahead and kick us off on this one. I think my personal favorite so far has been our text analytics project. This was something that was entirely new to me. I had done, a little bit of work on my own before starting at the Institute, and text analytics was something that had always felt so far out of my realm of understanding and knowledge and know-how, that being able to go in and actually do that was really cool. But we also got to go out and pick our own data sets. So again, we got to choose something that we found really interesting. My team ended up using the Reddit API to scrape user posts on different subreddits and ran like topic analysis on that. And it was definitely a fun and creative learning experience.
For me, I think my favorite topic was probably kind of we had like an introduction to cloud computing and technology like Docker and Kubernetes towards the end of the program, and I thought that was a really cool like topic, I guess. We don't oftentimes talk about like how do you take these data science or analytic solutions and convert them into like a production environment. So that really
Abhinav, you just froze. Go ahead, Kevin.
Well, I'll go ahead. Yeah, I would say that I really enjoyed the different machine learning aspects. That was one of the courses that we took in the fall semester. And the homework assignment for that module was, say you're working with your homework team, a group of like 4 or 5 students. You learn all these machine learning techniques, and you get a problem, and basically they say, find the best model, the best prediction for this problem. And so you're working with your team on several different machine learning solutions to that homework assignment, and it sort of turns into a tournament of sorts, I guess, between the different teams, and then within the teams, which model gets selected, that kind of thing. So that was probably the most interesting thing that we did.
So we had the opportunity. Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead. Sorry. I think my connection dropped. I'm not sure how far I got into it. I was just asking if we're on the same question.
Yeah, we are on the same question. I was gonna just say that we did a visualization project. Sorry. Okay, we did a visualization project for the NC State women's tennis team. The coach came in and he gave us the sort of problem that he wanted solved, the data set, the insights he might want to draw, but also left it open for us to provide extra insights we found. And every team created their own Tableau dashboard or any other type of software dashboarding that they chose to use. My team chose Tableau. And it was really cool to see just what kinds of insights our team was able to draw, but also everyone else's. I know that I learned a lot about visualization and how to tell a story with data from watching everyone else's presentation there.
Abhinav, you're welcome to finish up what you were sharing earlier, but there's actually another question that you are our resident international student on this panel, so perhaps you can address this for Xiaoming. They asked, what do you wish you, oh, sorry, wrong question. For international students, what was the most difficult challenge when studying in this program as an international student?
Okay. For me personally, I think I've spent quite a bit of time, like, in the U.S. academic setting. So I was a little bit more used to it, but I think, based on, what I've heard from a lot of my friends that were international students, I think, kind of the challenges that come with moving to a different country are always going to be there. One thing that has kind of stood out to me is definitely the communication aspect of the program, which can be a little bit more difficult if, English isn't necessarily your first language. And it does take a lot to kind of speak up and converse with not only, potential employers, but also your peers. So I do think that can be a bit of a challenge. It's definitely something that was a challenge for me when I first moved to the US. But I do think that the Institute definitely provides both like mentorship as well as resources and opportunities to really be able to, develop that communication and language skill set.
Thank you for that. And yes, we actually have a person on our team now who that's her area of expertise, is working with international students, non-native English speakers, on their professional communication skills. And so that's a huge resource for our international students. Let's see here. Another question is, what do you wish you would have known or understood better before coming into the program?
I'll go first. I wish that I had more of a coding background coming in. The only real coding that I had done was a little bit of MATLAB in undergrad. And then as I was trying to figure out if this program would be something I'd enjoy, I went ahead and did a data camp course in Python. And it was something that I kind of took to pretty well. And so that was really my only experience with coding. I know that there were a lot of my classmates had a lot more experience and were able to do things a little bit quicker at times. But you get opportunities to learn in SAS in the summer for sure. And then doing homework assignments both in SAS and in R, you have a module on Python. It's, they definitely set you up to learn all that stuff pretty well. So it's worked out pretty well for me. So
I would say, just to add on to that, I also felt that I wish I had known more about coding or had more experience. I recommend, if you don't have a huge coding background, to do those data camps and fun, especially open source types of coding languages. But that said, I wish that I had known there's no perfect MSA student and that your background is the perfect background because you add something to your team. And so I think I came in with this idea of like, I'm going to hold people back because my technical background isn't as strong, but I was able to offer a lot of help in other areas. So I really wish that I would have known that going into the program and didn't have this sort of, preconceived notion that I was going to be left behind by my peers. There's a way for you to catch up, or there's a way for you to, contribute your skills.
One of the things that I wish I'd known was that during your time at the Institute, it's definitely okay to make mistakes. It's definitely, everyone they're in the same situation where there's, a lot of new concepts. There's a lot of new situations that you'll be in, whether that's with communication or presenting or, taking on a new technical challenge. And it's definitely okay to make mistakes, ask questions, ask for help when you need it. There isn't, like someone had said, there is no ideal Institute student, and everyone's bringing something to the table, and succeeding in the program, I personally think, really depends on how willing you are to go out and put yourself out there and get access to the resources that you need and ask the questions that you want to ask.
The one thing I think I would have liked to know, to have known, was just how much time it was going to take. Even if you're top of your class in undergrad, it's going to be a lot of work. I think I tried to work at the beginning of the program, and I think I made it through the summer, and then it was just downhill. So that ended pretty quickly. So just knowing that it's a big commitment and takes a good amount of time. You can still have a life and see your family and whatnot, but it's still yeah, it takes a lot of time. So gotta be willing to sacrifice a little bit.
All right, there's a question here specifically for Kevin. This is from Iman. So how did your educational background in bioengineering and biomedical engineering and industry experience in quality engineering shape your experience in the program?
Yeah, that's a good question. People definitely come from very different backgrounds that don't always apply directly to data science, but I would say that coming from bioengineering, or any engineering discipline really, gives you a really solid problem solving background, and that's something that is applicable across most fields, but definitely in data science. Figuring out how to approach a problem, work through that in a sort of scientific method, using those skills to work through and find a solution. In terms of quality engineering, I would say that gave me a good bit of a statistical background, trying to use stats to determine, whether or not a defect rate is acceptable in the manufacturing process, that kind of thing. It, gives you a little bit of that background, and was really my first exposure to data and smaller data sets, but it gave me that exposure, and it sort of let me know that was something that I did want to do, to see the kinds of business decisions that can be made based on data and analytics. And then I would also say that just the attention to detail that's required in quality and that mindset of getting things done right the first time. It's definitely applicable to a lot of things, but in coding, it saves a lot of time when you do things, you're not missing a close parentheses or a comma somewhere that throws your whole code off. And I'm definitely guilty of that. It's by no means am I perfect in that way, but definitely a good mindset to have.
Thank you. Ian wants to know randomly, are there any active or former members of NC State's Data Analytics Club on this call? If you are one of them, please message in the chat so that Ian can find you. One of our professors at the Institute is the club advisor for NC State's Data Analytics Club. So we have a close relationship with that group. Other questions, folks? You've got this amazing panel to tap into their brains. What would you like to know? There's another one. Yep, sorry, go ahead. We've got one in the chat and then Michael will get to you. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool. So Landon asked, do employers seeking to hire students into heavily technical positions prioritize students with quantitative undergrad degrees or applicable past experience? I can chime in on that, but panel, do you have any thoughts on that?
From the perspective of Elevate, I can speak a little bit to that. We don't necessarily look for a quantitative undergraduate background, and again, Elevate is pretty familiar with the institute and what the coursework is. So what we do have during our interview process is, we'll definitely try to figure out what skill set would be applicable to what aspect of data science at the company. So if you are more technically skilled, regardless of your degree, and that's something that you are passionate about, and I feel a lot of companies will probably share this, you would most likely be placed in a little bit more of a technical role.
Yeah, in my experience interviewing in the spring, we definitely, there are companies that will sort of give you that preference. Do you want to be in a more technical data science heavy role? Do you want to be more of a business analyst, that kind of thing? And you can sort of shape that in the interview process. I think that at least a vast majority of the companies that come to interview do have some previous experience with the Institute, so they know kind of what they're getting with students coming out. I would say that most of them are pretty comfortable with the level of education that the Institute provides. And, some people do have very specific backgrounds coming out of, working in finance or something like that, that end up with a job in finance. That kind of thing happens. You'll see it, but, during the interview process, you'll be able to speak to your experience in the program, and that's typically, you'll be fine.
All right, Michael, I know you were going to ask a question.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Michael. I'm an accounting student at the University of Florida. So my question is, you guys have a lot of different backgrounds before you guys went into the program. So what's something like from your background that you wouldn't really expect to have needed to use, or like not very like data relevant, but you ended up playing a part in like a project or something?
This wasn't for me necessarily, but this one person I remember from my class, she was a theater major, and she was actually a practicum lead as well. And like our presentations, there's a lot of emphasis on presentations, and her I remember her practicum, whenever they presented, it was like a work of art almost. Like it was like they just hit every cue that they needed to. So that was like pretty cool to see that someone had such a a background that was so different from what you would assume would be like really good for the program come in and really add value to our team.
Kind of to piggyback off of that, I again, like, this hasn't really happened to me personally. I'm not the most artistic person, but there are a lot of roles in data science where you're required to, create content or presentations, and that does incorporate a lot of, visualization tools. And I've definitely noticed that people that, do have a little bit more of an artistic and creative side, they can see basically they can see data in a different light, and they know how to represent it in a way that really tells a story and makes sense. And that's something that, I can't speak to it personally, but it's cool to see that how an artistic background can translate over into, a pretty technical field.
So I had some experience being an undergraduate learning assistant in the economics department. And so I found that that experience sort of tutoring and teaching lent itself well to translating technical concepts to non-technical audiences or beginners. So any experience that you have in communicating something that you're an expert in to somebody who's not, I found can be really helpful in the program. I've seen there's a lot of teachers in the program, and they are some of the best presenters and communicators and organizers in the program. And so it's really great to see those kinds of experiences play out as well.
All right, that was great. That was a good question. Thank you for that. All right, well, panelists, you are welcome to stay on the call. We're going to hang on for another 10-15 minutes or so to address additional questions. If you need to bow out, you're welcome to leave at this time as well. But if everyone would join me in just thanking our panelists for their time this evening. Y'all are great.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all for presenting.
All right.
Thank you for having us.
I'm seeing some more questions coming through on the chat. So Daisha and I can take stabs at these, but if it makes sense, if any of our alumni are still on and they want to tackle them, or current students, you are welcome as well. So let's see. Any chance the upcoming cohort will meet in campus at some point, or should we expect to be 100% virtual this coming year? Oh, Michael, that is the million-dollar question. And I don't think anyone knows the answer to that in its entirety just yet. What we are currently sort of expecting is that it's highly likely that the summer semester will be virtual, just because the university, we're unusual. We are, I think, the only graduate program that starts in the summer and has a required summer semester as part of our program. So the university's priorities don't tend to fall with the summer semesters. And so I expect that they're not going to kind of have all of their ducks in a row for things to be kind of full-fledged back up and running by summer. So likely that'll be virtual. After that, fall semester, I think we hope for it to be at least a hybrid format, partly virtual, partly in person, if not fully in person. Obviously, a lot of this is going to depend on the distribution of the COVID vaccine. We'll see how that goes. The university has not yet made any announcements with regards to whether they're going to require students, faculty, and staff to receive the vaccine. So TBD on that front. And then for next spring semester, I think it's too far in advance to really predict, but hopefully it will be building off of whatever we're able to do in the fall. And I should mention too that with our current situation, as the students have mentioned, we've been operating virtually this academic year. It's gone remarkably well, considering we're accustomed to all being under the same roof. The students do have key card access to the lower level of our facility, so that if they want to go in and use some of the study rooms to meet as teams, obviously safely with masks and all of that, we've got one of the classrooms open for that purpose. We also have a couple of larger team rooms and a couple of individual rooms. So it's also a good space if we have students with unreliable internet connections at home and they just need to have a good, reliable connection to be able to conduct a job interview or something like that. There are those spaces as well. So there are still some opportunities to have some face time at the Institute. It's just a much different look than it would be under kind of normal circumstances. Let's see here. Iman wants to know what a day in the life of an MSA student is like. And to those who have gone on to be employed as data professionals, what is a day in your life like? That is a great question. Kaitlin, Sarah, do you guys want to tackle the day in the life of a student?
So I'm sure my answer will differ from anything you might hear from previous years, considering we're not on campus. But I'd say generally our days at the Institute start at around 9 every morning. That's the time that we usually have our first class. We have our classes with our half of the cohort, so 60 people per class, which works remarkably well in Zoom. It's actually easier to have your questions heard via a Zoom call, I think, than maybe jockeying to have your question asked in class. We typically have, I think this was mentioned earlier, anywhere from 1 to maybe 4 classes a day. And I would say no matter how many classes you have each day, you're just as busy no matter what, accomplishing either classwork, homework, or practicum work. I tend to regularly sign off around 6 p.m. Although there are definitely days, especially during portions of the semester, that have more work, or I work later. Those of you who are in undergraduate or were recently in undergraduate are probably familiar with that college student lifestyle. I had to relearn that a bit coming out of the workforce. I'd say during the day we have at least one team meeting with either your homework team or your practicum team. And that's a really nice way to break up your day and talk to your classmates and get some socialization in, even if we're not able to leave our homes or apartments or wherever we may be residing right now.
Sarah, would you add anything to that?
My day looks remarkably similar to Caitlin's. My team, every day we have an 8:45 to 9 a.m. stand-up meeting, my practicum team, to give project updates. So that's when my day starts. I also usually sign off around 6 p.m. And the only thing I would add to Caitlin's is sometimes we have asynchronous classes, so videos we watch, and then perhaps some quizzes that we would answer about those. And you know, I do some work on the weekends, but I would say I work like 9 to 6 p.m. most days with an hour-long lunch break where I go and take a nice walk outside, get some sun. But it's definitely different being virtual, I think, than what perhaps the alumni might share about their daily life.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and then I'm going to have to drop off. But my day as a student wasn't all that different, other than I was in person at the Institute until the spring. But yeah, classes typically, I think 9 to 10:15, 9 to 10:30, something like that. Another class 10:45 to 12, and then you get a lunch break, and then again 2 more about 75-minute classes in the afternoon. So you get, you know, half-hour breaks throughout the day. You're using those to work on homework assignments, meet with your practicum team, that kind of stuff. Fitting in your coaching sessions, if that's something that you've got scheduled, all kinds of things. You stay very busy the whole time. Like Jabari said, the time is definitely something that takes some getting used to, I guess, especially if you're coming out of undergrad. I know it's one of my things that attracted me to the program was that they do kind of treat it like a 9 to 5, like a daily job. So if you are committing that time every day to your studies, to your practicum project, you're doing pretty well, I would say. And that sort of helps you not spend quite as much time in the evenings, even though definitely some late nights. In terms of being employed as a data professional, I'm not sure that I have the most typical job, but I am working remotely. So it's definitely some Zoom calls, Slack messages, a lot of that. It's working with another alum pretty closely, so that's been really good. Having a classmate that came out at the same time as I did to work with and lean on a little bit. But we're working on a project down at Fort Bragg, trying to kind of enhance human performance for the clients down there. So that's a really interesting project. Right now I'm working on a dashboard in R Shiny that's taking up a lot of my time. We've been doing some modeling in Data Robot, which is auto ML technology that we're using, which is really, really cool. So yeah, it's a lot of different stuff. My days are never necessarily the same, so definitely enjoy that. But yeah, that's about it.
Thank you. That was great. Jabari, if you're still on, I don't know if there's anything you'd want to chime in with regards to a day in the life for you. I don't know if he's still with us. Okay. Excellent. Well,
Sorry about that, Val.
Oh, no, it's okay. Did you want to share a little bit about like what a typical day looks like for you on the job?
Yeah, for me, I think a typical day is probably working with a few different. So I'm on a few different projects at Red Hat, and the first couple of things that we do is kind of just organize the team in those sub teams, I guess, for the various projects that we're on. And then throughout the day, it's kind of stakeholder meetings, as well as a few pockets of like work in there up to around 1 or so. And then from there, it's pretty much just development work for the rest of the day. I think that would probably be an average day.
Awesome. Pramodini has a question about how testing works within the MSA program, specifically during the virtual format. Kaitlin or Sarah, if you want to chime in with regards to quizzes, exams, how those work, I can also add to that as well, but if either of you would like to share.
Sure. I actually just want to preface that by saying there are fewer exams than I expected in the program, just because there are a lot of professors that will sort of trend towards project-based work for their final exam assessments. However, for the exams that we do have, it's all through Moodle, which is the course website that the MSA program uses for all of the classwork that we do. So it's all online. We get a mixture of multiple choice questions, short answer questions, longer answer questions. But I would have to say it's not vastly different from what I would expect to see in class, other than it's on my computer screen as opposed to on a page in front of me on my desk. So.
And yeah, that's actually, Kaitlin, you mentioned something that is what I wanted to mention in terms of chiming in on this topic, and that's that this program is different in a lot of ways, and because it is in as many ways as possible trying to mirror kind of real life as a professional data scientist, the emphasis is, again, as Kaitlin said, it's really on kind of putting your knowledge to work on projects. And so yes, there are quizzes and exams just to ensure that folks are learning what they need to learn, and those are really kind of the only thing that you'll do independently in the program as opposed to being on a team, but those are not kind of the biggest emphasis. This program is one that really tries to hammer home to its students that grades matter a lot less than learning. There's really, your grades are just kind of what show up on your transcript at the end of the semester. They don't really have any bearing on the kind of job you're going to get. We don't share those grades with employers. It's not like we're ranking our students, class rank or something like that, and only the top couple of students get all the job offers. It doesn't work that way. It's really much more about how you take the content, absorb it, learn it, internalize it, and then can turn around and articulate that to various audiences. So yeah, quizzes and exams exist, but they're not the end all be all. All right, I've got time for one more question, I think. So that will go to, let's see here, I just saw one, Ilona. So is there a difference between what it's like coming into the program for people who come straight out of undergrad versus people who've been out of school for a couple of years? I can certainly say something about that, but ladies, if you would like to share.
Sure. So I came straight out of undergrad. Kaitlin has a couple of years or a few years of professional experience going in. So for me, I think what is different than perhaps somebody who has some professional experience is that this is my first time working this almost 9-to-5 schedule, not having quite as chaotic a schedule as I would have in undergrad. And I get to learn a lot from the people who have professional experience. So I lean on them a lot to understand their experience in project management or leadership. I wouldn't say like you have a huge disadvantage or advantage. It really is like a give and take between the skills of helping each other. I don't know, Kaitlin, if you had anything to add or.
I have to say that as someone with professional experience, there's equal amounts to learn from people who have come straight out of undergrad. And I will also say that a lot of the time, you don't even realize that there's so many different backgrounds. I mean, I have to say for the longest time, I thought that Sarah had professional experience because she's so well-spoken and eloquent. And so when she told me she was straight out of undergrad, I mean, it completely blew my mind. But so I just to end that with, I think everybody has a great experience in the program, and I don't know if any one background will give you a leg up compared to other backgrounds.
I think the biggest thing is something Kaitlin mentioned earlier, which is just kind of the difference between a traditional work schedule and then being back in graduate school and just sort of reverting to being a student again, being in a classroom and learning as opposed to being on the job and doing. It's a different kind of mindset. And so for those who have experience, I think there's a little bit of a shift period where you have to kind of get back into that groove of being a student again after a break. All right. I think that we have covered all of the questions in the chat. So thank you everyone, participants for your wonderful questions and panelists for your time and your great answers. We appreciate it. And I will also mention that if any of you have questions beyond this evening, you are welcome to contact Daisha or me. We are happy to set up individual appointments with you if you'd like to talk at more length about your specific candidacy and what that might look like, or if there are certain things that you can do to help bolster that as you apply for admission to the program. Happy to chat with you, so feel free to reach out to either of us to set up some time for a one-on-one. And of course, our website is a really robust resource as well. It contains a lot of data, unsurprisingly, so feel free to use that as you need to as well. So again, thank you all. Appreciate your time tonight and attention, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you.